Okay, it is just after 1 o'clock. This is the Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. Narberth Borough Council Infrastructure Committee meeting. My name is Mike Salton. I'm the chair of the committee. I also have the other members, Michael Galdini and Joe Stratton. So our first order of business is the approval of the minutes for May 26, 2026. I have a motion.
Move for approval.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Okay. Second item on the agenda is to discuss a recommendation to council for the two capital expenditures. The first is for the elevator and the second is for the leaf vacuum and leaf box. So, I guess I didn't say that. So here's our program manager, Maggie Duff. And our intern is in.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to
No worries.
imply you weren't here.
I'm here. So we'll start with the elevator. So this is the capital expenditure that we put on our capital improvement plan last year. So it is in a 5-year CIP and was also budgeted for specifically in our 2026 capital budget. This work is to modernize the elevator here at the Borough building here at 100 Conway. This work includes the replacement of all of the machinery and electrical equipment for the elevator, both within the actual cab itself, so the panel within the cab, and then the elevator machinery room, which is in a separate room just off of the multi-purpose room. I do want to emphasize this does not include the actual replacement of the cab structure itself, so the actual carriage that's in the shaft in the building is staying in place. That is in good shape. So this is just the electrical components, and then some cosmetic improvements, so new exterior doors, and then some resurfacing of the walls just for cosmetic purposes on the inside. So we, staff have looked at a couple of price estimates. We did use all CoStar vendors, which means that we do not need to go out to bid for this project. We've received a couple of quotes, which are listed here on your memo. So we have one quote from Pincus, which separates out the electrical and mechanical work separate from the cab design upgrades. So this is $119,995 for the work plus $1,420 for the cab design. They are the mid-tier quote that came in. We have TKE, which came in for all of the services for $198,000, and then we had Tri-State that came in at $84,900. Now, just looking at the base numbers, you would think that Tri-State would be the lowest operator that we can go with. However, our professionals, so this is Jeff Eldon, our Public Works Director, and Ken Watson, who's our houseman, both looked at all of these quotes and are actually recommending Pincus because Houseman Watson does work with Pincus and some of the other buildings that he manages, has really good things to say about them. They use all non-proprietary machinery and equipment, so it's interchangeable. TKE would actually put us in a proprietary agreement that we would have to use them for all kind of future upgrades. So we kind of get price locked into what they have to offer. And the other concern with the Tri-State quote is that it does exclude the cab design work, and their quote was not as robust in details as the others, and we suspect that that is going to result in additional costs that are not originally included, because if you price out what they've included compared to the scope of services that the other folks include, that quote is actually, it's adequate for what they're proposing as part of the scope of work. But if we're to have an apples to apples scope of work, that 84.9 doesn't include all of the other work that the other companies provide. So we expect that that quote would actually increase to be closer to what Pincus is offering. So given the robustness of the Pincus quote, it includes all of the things that we need. And given their high standing and overall quality of work, staff is recommending that we proceed with awarding the contract work to Pincus.
For me, the big issue is that we are allowed to, use non-proprietary equipment. I've run into situations in my own workplace where, we bought like proprietary software that then became obsolete and nobody else could write code on top of the proprietary software because the company went out of business. So I'm always very nervous when I get a bid for anything like that. I mean, I've had clients run into the same problem. If for some reason Pincus went out of business, we wouldn't be stuck with some proprietary equipment that nobody else could know how to service or be able to service or provide replacement parts to.
Makes
That
sense.
makes sense to me. That was the big driver for me. So, okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, so can I take a vote to recommend to full council that we engage Pincus for the um, elevator upgrades? It's for a total project cost of $134,195.
So you,
We're voting. I think.
well, we didn't have a motion on it.
Oh, I didn't.
No.
Oh, sorry.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Time for my cup of coffee. Second cup of coffee. Okay. If we've had our discussion, prepare to vote. 3-0. Okay. Yep. Okay, I'll take a motion to recommend to council capital expenditure for the leaf vacuum and leaf box.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Dobbs.
Alrighty. Just scrolling down. So this one as well is a capital expenditure that we had included within our 5-year capital improvement plan last year and have budgeted for in our 2026 capital budget. This is to improve the operations of our leaf collection services. So we do collect leaves, they do get composted. And currently, the process to do so includes the use of backpack blowers, the zero-turn mower to mulch or bag the leaves, lifting tarped piles into the truck, and then using the skid steer to pick up the piles, and then follow up with the street sweeper to pick up any debris that may be left over. This is the most labor-intense way that a municipality can utilize to pick up leaves. And it's very inefficient. It takes a lot of staff, manpower, and multiple forms of equipment to do something that we can more easily accomplish with this equipment that we're seeking to purchase. So this is a leaf box, which mounts to one of our current Public Works vehicles. And that would be purchased for $3,940. And that's coming from Lancaster Truck Bodies. The leaf vacuum and the swing away hitch is coming from John Deere, and this is priced at $5,929.91 for a total purchase price between the two of them of $9,869.91, which is well below the estimate of $15,000 which we had budgeted in the CIP. Both of these, because they're coming from separate places and even combined, this is below the bid threshold, so we do not need to go out to bid for this. And the benefit obviously of this is that the leaf box then gets mounted to the truck that we already have. The vacuum then is connected to the truck as well, and then the vacuum just sucks up the leaves and directly deposits them into the truck. So we're not doing this like sweeping, mulching, lifting process. So we can have residents sweep their leaves or rake their leaves to the edge of their curb, and then we can just use the truck, drive by on the truck, and just have one person driving and one person operating vacuum. And it's much more efficient. It's much more, it is a better clean. We don't have as much to kind of sweep up after the fact. We're not like mulching these leaves and grinding them up. So we're just collecting them whole. And then from there, we can take them in the truck to be disposed and then come back and circle through. So it'll make for much more efficient operations. So we are seeking to have council proceed with that capital fund expenditure for our leaf operations.
Just a clarification. My understanding is this for the park space. You mentioned residents sweeping leaves into the street. That would be something very different than what currently happens.
I'm so sorry. Yes, in my head, I'm thinking that no, we're not doing residential leaf collection. This is for our properties. Thank you for the clarification.
Got it.
Yeah.
So as a resident, I will still sweep my leaves into a paper bag and that'll get picked up.
Yes, so Mascaro is
that
gonna
won't
be the one
change.
yeah.
No, all
Mascaro
good.
will still do the residential leaf collection, but this is for all of our operations. So, sorry, not resident sweeping to the leaves, but our public works.
Perfect, thank you.
And
Great.
what about, I mean, we do have maybe that street cleaning in the fall where they go through and I mean, I know that we have the machines come down the streets. Will this do that? Is that part of this as well, or no?
For residential pickup,
It's not
For street
residential
sweeping?
pickup, just street sweeping, like in the fall, sometimes I know they come down with the machine, like along the curb line, just to
Yes.
make sure that it's clean so that the water flows to the drainage.
yes, we run our street sweeper throughout the year.
So does this get used for that as well? Or not? Is it,
Does this, meaning the leaf box and the vacuum?
Yeah.
Get used for street sweeping?
Yeah.
No, the
it's
street
because
sweeper.
it's just sweeping? It's
Yeah,
not-
the street
picking up.
sweeper with the brushes that runs
Yeah.
along the curb. I mean, we operate that every single week. You know, we target certain areas depending on, like, ahead of the rains.
Yeah.
We put the street sweeper out to try to pick up things before they got washed into the storm sewer system. So we run it routinely
Okay.
throughout the year.
Alright.
And then the street sweeper is used, like along the curbs where we were picking up leaves adjacent to our properties.
Right. Okay.
Because of the operations, how they had to manage the operations, but
Alright.
this is separate from the street sweeper, and the
Okay.
street sweeper will still
Okay.
continue to operate on an
Gotcha.
ongoing basis.
Great.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they can come onto our street in the fall, basically, to clear out they go along the curb because there's a lot of debris along the
Yeah.
curb that prevents the water from then getting captured into the storm drain.
yes, correct, and we do kind of prioritize, street sweeping for that.
Yeah.
For that very reason, I mean, we have the stormwater bump outs to try to remove
Yeah.
sediment from the waterways, we have our street sweeper, which
Yep.
helps to reduce sediment, from getting into the storm sewers, so it's all part of the same.
Yep.
Efforts.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Brother? No? Okay. Take a vote, all in favor? Nothing.
It's very
Okay.
exciting.
Ugh.
Glad that it's gonna make staff work easier, more efficient.
Anything
This
we
is
can
great.
do to make them efficient at a pretty low price, quite frankly.
It's a good price.
Yeah. So, okay. Next up is a discussion of the 2026 road program.
So really, I just wanted to give a quick update, kind of where we are with that. So all of the documentation has been submitted to PennDOT, the liquid fuels, documentation was submitted to PennDOT for review. So we're just waiting on approval, before we can proceed. We actually just got some communication from PennDOT this morning, so we will, respond back to them. And then once we have that approval from PennDOT, is that the contractor will then be able to mobilize, once that approval is given. So we have been ahead of the road program operating to replace the manholes, and curb ramps, and then we'll proceed with the actual mobilization for the milling and repaving. So we will be sending out letters to all of the folks who are impacted by this. We sent them postcards a couple of months ago when we identified the roadways for the 2026 paving program. So once we have then the mobilization date from the contractor, we're going to be sending out notices to those residents to provide them with some additional information about the more specific dates that they can expect the disruptions to the street to occur, and what the parking provisions that we're allowing for. So we're working with our parking enforcement team to get on the same page about how enforcement is going to be carried out. So we'll be sending those folks impacted some options and some places to park where they won't be ticketed for parking out of their normal zone.
Will they get like a temporary pass or something just to put in their windshield.
Right, we had talked about doing that, so the intent right now is to send out with the letters, just temporary parking passes that go in the dash, just to give our parking enforcement officer, a clear visual that they are parking in that location, due to being displaced as a result of the operations. There will still be on-street parking outside of the working hours, so once we have those specific working hours, folks will still be able to park by their houses in the evenings. It's really just during the day, during the prime operations, that they'll be restricted from parking on the street. So we'll post signs on the street. We'll post notices, direct mailer letters to the impacted residents. So we'll have information in the newsletter, social media. So everything will be well communicated to those folks impacted.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, reports. I have not heard anything substantive from Shade Tree Commission unless somebody else has a update from them independently. Just Maggie, since somebody asked about our updated code enforcement on the shrubbery, am I right that we had a discussion with Shade Tree Commission about the process of enforcing our ordinance in terms of, having to cut the shrubs back, and it's just, didn't we talk to them about, and they recommended that we give the homeowner an opportunity. I just want to respond to that person who sent us the email today to say, we did talk about this with Shade Tree Commission, but I want to make sure that I'm accurate.
Yeah, are you talking about the ordinance amendments that we made, or are you talking about the actual enforcement of the program?
I thought we talked about how to do the enforcement with Shade Tree, still on public health and safety, and that we talked about,
Yes.
giving the homeowners the opportunity first rather than just going out and whacking their.
Yes.
I want to be really clear.
Yeah.
Give the homeowners a chance first before Public Works
Yeah.
takes care of it.
Yeah,
You use the phrase before we go out and whack it. That's not
Yeah.
what's happening.
right.
Okay, just wanted.
Yeah. No, that's what
Be
I'm
clear.
saying is like before Public Works would go out and do it themselves and then find the homeowner, I want to say,
Well, we likely would not go out and do it ourselves.
okay,
So the enforcement mechanism in our property maintenance ordinance, where these regulations are housed, would result if somebody were to not maintain after receiving the initial hang tag notice.
right.
We would then proceed with issuing a notice of violation, so an actual citation letter, which would give additional time for them to come into compliance. And then in the event that they do not come into compliance at that point, then the citation gets turned over to the court. There is a court date set,
Okay.
and then likely, if it's still not accomplished at that point, the judge would make a determination based on the circumstances of the case.
Okay.
So we are not intending on, while the code does allow for the municipality to
Right.
go out and do the work and then lien the
Really?
property,
Right.
that is not our intent
Okay.
to do it that way.
Yeah.
We do not have the manpower
Right.
to spend doing that, and that's not the course of action that we're seeking
Okay.
to take.
Okay.
In regards to coordinating with Shade Tree, yes, we invited them as part of these conversations early in the year. We had multiple discussions with them. They hosted a pruning day in April, and they did provide us materials that we have posted to the website to provide educational opportunities for residents to learn best pruning practices. So those are on our website. The majority, I believe, like tree tenders, materials, other resources provided by some other agencies that were provided to us by the Shade Tree Commission. So they're well aware of this effort, did provide some resources. And again, they hosted the pruning day and,
Okay.
yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm actually accurate when I respond. So,
And I guess quick kind of related question, which is, I know that for the snow removal and the citations, my understanding is that those are just now actually like finally making their way through judge.
Yeah.
So like, is it gonna be like for these, is it gonna be a similar timeline where if someone's not compliant, it's encroaching on the right of way and we have to go the fine route, like, I guess, is it gonna be
No,
You know, we're gonna be in the middle of winter when they're actually getting the,
no, and I want to make this very clear. We filed those citations on February 2nd.
I know that the
Yeah.
hang up with those was not us.
Yes.
But my question is it gonna be like? Is it gonna be, is it the same process? Would we expect that
There shouldn't
no,
be that
there-
long lag.
This is not an acceptable duration of time between when the citation is filed. This is
Yeah.
the matter with the courts. We
Right.
have talked to them to try to figure out why there was such a delay. We filed the citations in February. We were not notified that the citations went out until April. And we did continue to follow up with them to make sure why they weren't going out. They have had some staffing issues. If you recall, there was the incident with the 2 clerks at the court last year. And as I understand it, they are still working through some personnel matters and procedural matters with their staffing.
Okay.
Not to use that as an excuse, but that is the reason that was given to us as to why there were these delays. We cannot control the court once it gets filed with the court.
Sure, yeah.
Obviously, it's not ideal for us to have that sort of delay, and we don't want there to be a delay. There is obviously, when we're talking about vegetation, a more opportune time to kind of take care of these matters. And once we get too far into the fall season, it's more difficult to do maintenance once you hit November.
Right.
So the idea being that right now, folks who are getting hang tags as notice of a violation of the property maintenance, the vegetation, they're given between 21 and 30 days to correct the identified violation. Follow-up inspections will be held, and then if non-compliance is noted following that initial timeline, then a citation will be issued, granting again an additional timeline during which they have to come into compliance. So we recognize if people don't see the hang tags, or maybe they have hired a landscaper and they're just delayed a little while. But again, if anybody has received a hang tag notice, and say you have a landscaper, but they're booked up and they can't come out for another 5 weeks, don't wait to let us know that you've at least addressed it. That will help us with our tracking purposes. But there's going to be an additional timeline of compliance once that citation is issued. I'm sorry, once the notice of violation is issued. And then at that point, if it's not corrected, then the citation with the court gets filed, and we'll be sure to work with the court to ensure that those get processed in a timely manner.
Okay, but I think what I'm hearing as well is our expectation is that the timeline that the court took on the snow citations was outside the norm
Yeah.
of the
Yes.
timeline that they would normally have taken.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted, so that makes sense. And then there was one other, again, not the thing, but just kind of related. I know that in the past we've had call it the welcome packet, like, because we're intersecting in some way with the process when someone is fine moving into a home. I know that in the past, the borough has had, okay, well, we're sending XYZ to a person, we will add in just like a page that says, hey, here's your bullet points of the things you should know, you need to clear, like the things that we kind of expect folks to know, but it's good for them to just kind of have that information. And I had the impression that I don't think, maybe we do this. I thought my understanding was that we hadn't actually done that for a while, and someone brought this back to my attention relatively recently. So I wanted to pitch that out as an additional way to get information on some of the right-of-way responsibilities and the snow responsibilities, and some of those sorts of things, especially if we're already kind of sending things out to folks at that kind of point.
We're not
Okay.
currently. That is something actually that we had discussed with Kelsey before she left, was
Okay.
to start sending out new resident welcome packets.
Mhm.
That has fallen by the wayside the past couple of weeks because we
Gotcha.
have not had a staff member to do it.
Yeah.
But that is something that we've already discussed and decided that we were going to start reigniting.
Yeah.
We do have all of the materials on our website already.
Yeah.
So the intent, you're kind of bursting my bubble because I was going to have this big flashing.
I'm sorry.
Um, stealing my thunder here, but the idea being is that we're gonna come up with a more robust page on the website that articulates all of that. And rather than send residents a big bulky packet of a bunch of pamphlets that are printed out that they're just gonna throw away, that's a piece of resources for us. So what we're gonna do is just send them a letter with a QR code that links them to the website. And then they can go and see specifically, so everything will be organized on the website. With the direct links to those resources. So that they can look up things that are relevant to them and bookmark that page and come back to it. And that way we can do a direct mailing outreach to those new residents to alert them to some of the kind of more common things like the trash schedule,
Yep.
the snow, the vegetation, maintenance, permit information, and
Yeah.
other.
We can just have a separate new resident tab, on the
Yeah,
website, maybe.
and it,
which is actually very useful for everybody. We can be like, hey, if you want a quick and dirty, what are your obligations as a resident? Here you go.
yeah, so we should have. So we have a resident guide already on the website.
Okay,
which
okay,
is-
so then we don't need it.
Yeah, which is where everything lives currently, and
Okay.
that's what we're going to be linking everything to.
Okay,
So everything is already there, so we're just gonna, review that, make sure that that's up to date, add anything that's, relevant, just like cross-reference things
Yeah.
too.
perfect.
And then, essentially link folks to this page that already exists on the website, so.
Okay.
It's not called new resident guide, it's
Right,
just called
that's
resident,
fine.
yeah,
That's
it's
fine.
called
I forgot
resident.
we had that.
Yep, already have
Cool.
that.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Michael, if you have anything from Parks and Rec?
I do not.
Okay. Joe, Public Health and Safety, anything there?
There were updates, about the Montgomery Ave corridor study. No, the public presentation has been delayed to allow additional time to incorporate revisions and develop visualizations. There's an update on that. There were discussion items about driveway sightlines. There was residents on the 300 block of Dudley who were concerned about cars parking close to their driveway. And Chief String summarized his evaluation of that for the committee. Maggie shared the downtown parking map and presented a draft of that. That's being developed in collaboration with the Montgomery County Planning Commission. And we discussed Park King Day, which is a day where towns or boroughs can convert on-street parking spaces into small public parklets. And it's something that's being considered possibly for September. And that's it.
Okay, F&A, I don't know that there's much to report, I think, because anything that we reported came before full council.
Yeah, with
So-
the exception of, we've continued our discussion of the facilities rental, policy.
Yep. So we hope to have that to the rest of you guys. Hopefully soon, so just trying to tie up a few little loose ends there. Amtrak Bridge update. Jobs. Anything new to report?
So we are making some progress. The utility work is nearly complete. We had some night work recently for some of the utility work. Pico just has one last pole to install to disconnect some of the wires, and then we'll be able to proceed with the catenary work. So things are moving along with that. And we are working with Tim Rubin for access easements.
But otherwise, we're still on schedule, more or less.
Yes,
Material, I'll call it materially on schedule.
materially on schedule, and the contractor was explaining to me how the schedule works. And there's a lot of kind of formulaic things built into it, so it's one of those, like, if you miss a certain deadline, it kind of looks like it bumps you back, but you can kind of recoup
Yep.
that time. So in looking ahead at where we are right now, we are materially on schedule. things are progressing, so, we're trucking along with it. And once we get the utility work completed, then we'll start to see more of that actual, mobilization from the general contractor. So I know that folks may feel like there isn't much going on, and it's because we have this, huge lead time of all of the utility disconnects that we have to get through first. So it doesn't look like there's much going on, but if you take a look at where the utility poles are now versus where they were a few months ago, there's been a lot of movement there. And then we'll start to see some catenary work, which is going to be the power lines that go over the rail tracks. So catenary refers to the structures that support the utility lines, or not utility lines, but the electrification lines for the actual train.
Yeah.
I think, the only reason I asked is because I saw our virtual weekly Facebook post from somebody on social media. There's nothing's happening on the bridge, and I keep saying, but actually there are. Jim and I keep saying actually there are. So I'll just fill in a little detail there to say that the catenary work is the electrical utility work is almost complete.
Well, not just the electrical utility, it's Pico Gas, it's Verizon, it's Pico Electric. So it's the electric lines, it's all the telecoms lines, and it's all of the gas.
Yep.
So all the utilities, every
Great.
single utility under the sun was connected to this bridge.
Great. Okay. The last one says grant update. I don't know whether that's specific to. It just says grant update on here. I don't know whether that's specific to the park. And
It could be both,
Okay.
yeah. So we announced last month that we received the MACO 2040 grant award for our Elm Grove Park pedestrian bridge. We did just receive the grant documents, so all the signatures and agreements and things that we need to sign with the county. So those were just received yesterday. So I'll be reviewing those, completing them, and sending them back to the county. We are still waiting on our DCNR grant application. We will not find out about that likely until the end of the year. Typically, they don't announce those awards until October or November. So we're going to be sitting for a little bit until we have that information. But until then, we are still working with the DEP on our stream permits. So our stream disturbance permits, which we need as part of the work. So those take a couple of months to work through the process as well. We did start that process once we applied for the grants. So that work will conclude hopefully by the end of the year or very early in 2027. Which is, tees us up nicely to then proceed with the actual construction project in the early spring of next year. And at the very least, we have our $250,000 of construction funding for that, which is over 50% of the total project or construction costs for the project.
great. Okay. Any other reports before I move to public comment?
Nope.
Anything there? Okay. Nobody in the room for public comment? Anybody online?
We have no online.
Okay, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
In favor? We are adjourned at 1:34 p.m.